I'd like to call the Plainfield Board of Education meeting to order tonight, October 9th at 2019. I'm going to ask that the students from Plainfield Memorial School come up to the front because we're actually going to call on them tonight to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, you guys can take us either go back with your teacher until we hear from you later on. All right, just a couple housekeeping announcements. Tonight I know that I'm just asking that for the under public forum, we're going to actually move and have the student demonstrations and our student representative introductions before public forum, just based on the age of our students. I want to get them taken care of. And then also, when we get to the point of discussing the ratification of the secretary contract, if there is anyone who would like to feel that they need more information, feel free to call for a motion to go into executive session, and we can step off into the other room for those purposes of discussing the negotiations, just to answer any questions. If there's no questions, then we'll move on with that. So with that, I'm looking for a motion for the minutes of the meeting of September 11th, 2019.
So moved.
I'll second. I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 11th, 2019 meeting. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, in front of you under communications, you have a letter from EastCon from Gary Mala, who is the executive director. We are entitled to a seat on their board of directors. In the past, I had attended a couple of their meetings, but unfortunately, I find that with all of the other meetings that I do have between negotiations, between expulsions, between Board of Finance meetings, I am not able to make these meetings. So I do feel like if there is interest from a board member, in the past, for quite some time, we have not been voting members. They have a very active group of members there at all times, but the meetings are informative if there is an interest from anyone within the committee to be able to be there. If not, I will continue to do my best, but I just find that it was supposed to be quarterly meetings and it's more monthly meetings, and I am not able to have that time commitment as a chair. So if anyone is interested, just send an email and then we'll make sure we put you in contact with them. Moving on to personnel resignations and retirements. Mr. DePietro, I'm going to ask you to walk us through this.
All right, if we can do them one at a time in your packet. You should have received a letter from Kelly Zills. She is a new teacher to us. She started late in her career in terms of she was fortunate enough to have twins who both graduated from college, and her third child just went into college. She completed her college career with her twins, and so this was a first experience for her. It turned out that this is a very long travel. While she was excited to have it, the position, and she was very new. She just found that there were just more challenges than she's ready for, and she respectfully submitted a letter of resignation. She believes that it's in her best interest at this point to try to find something that is a little closer so that she can start her first full career as a teacher in a place that wouldn't put as many pressures on her. We regret that she found that difficulty, but we're just asking that the board would accept her letter of resignation. We have initiated the process to get a replacement because she was with us all the way until Friday last. So we have a sub, and we're hopeful to make sure that that absence will not be sustained.
So at this point, I'm looking for a motion to accept the resignation of Kelly Zills.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
In the second resignation that I'd ask you to accept, we have one of our veteran teachers. Her name is Melissa Hoyt. She has been working at the high school. She's been a wonderful asset. She works with our freshman academy students. And she's been offered an opportunity which is quite unique. When any of the vocational schools, it happens to be Ellis Technical, we always have a little competition with them, so we don't like to forfeit anyone. But whenever a vocational school such as Ellis has an opening, and especially in the area of like special education, that position has to go all the way through the State Department of Ed, because these are state appointments. So she was informed as early as August or September that she was a finalist. She then knew that this was something that would happen because they were working with the state towards her preferred application. And she's now been notified. She notified us on September 24th. Again, being the professional that she is, she told us she would give us the 30 days that we expect anyone would give us that time to replace. We do have a candidate within district who is very eager and has worked in special education and would like to go to the high school. Her position will be able to be replaced before her leave, and so there should be no disruption. And we are actually working on the follow-up replacement when that person takes that position. At this point in time, I ask that you accept Melissa Hoyt's resignation, as she has an opportunity to actually take this new position, and also it provides her with some new opportunities and responsibilities which she's looking forward to.
So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to accept the resignation of Melissa Hoyt.
So moved. I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
A little more difficulty was the fact that we had an individual, a teacher at one of our high schools, who's been with us a few years, just about 3, James Ryan. He's been working in our tech education department, and it was somewhat abrupt that he made a decision that he feels he has an opportunity or has a desire to actually travel outside of the country. And so he tendered his resignation effective immediately. And that's put a challenge on us, but that doesn't change our responsibility, which is to make sure that we accept a resignation that we cannot undo, so that we can then fill that position, which is difficult because in the tech ed department, as you know, finding replacements, they come out of the field often because of the experience that we need for our students. We are working with someone right now who is a certified architect or has trained in architect and graduated with that, but it's new as a teaching career. So I must ask that you accept the letter, the resignation of James Ryan, teacher at Plainfield High School, because unless that is invoked by the board, it stops our process of replacement.
So I'm looking for a motion to accept the resignation of James Ryan effective 9/29/19.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, under appointments and transfers.
Yep. So I need to, I want to tell you that while the one that you know of and you have the information on, and we're very excited to move forward with that, I'm going to take a moment because only yesterday in the afternoon, I received word that a person we have been working with, her name is Nicole Deary, has agreed and she's accepted a position. So I need to give you this information because, and you notice I asked you back on Friday, I want to make sure everyone has one, that we needed to delay our packet, and that was part of this, was hopeful that we could, in fact, acquire this individual. So let's make sure that the board who has to take this action has the information in front of you, and allow me this moment. So, do you have one on? Good. So let me begin with the fact, there you go. Yep. Okay, good. And Jake, it is important. We really do want, when we have student liaisons, we want you to feel that you're part and understand actions that we're taking. So, Nicole Dreary is a speech-language pathologist. If you remember, we had a person who informed us at the beginning of this year she had an opportunity, she was going to be traveling, and she was one of our speech-language pathologists serving Plainfield Memorial School and Plainfield Central School. Nicole Dreary is a speech-language pathologist. She's not only available, she is interested to fill a vacancy that was created by an unanticipated resignation of a speech-language pathologist, and she's prepared to fill that. Based on the caseload for the two schools, the number of the students who need it, the position can be awarded as a 0.8 full-time equivalent. So she will work 4 days out of 5 rather than a full schedule, which is important to why you'll understand how important it was for me to bring this to you tonight since we got the approval yesterday. The request and the recommendation of this board is to appoint Nicole Dreary to a 0.8 FTE full-time equivalent speech-language pathologist position assigned to Plainfield Central and Plainfield Memorial School, effective October 28, 2019. That's pending her Connecticut certification, but she already is fully certified in Rhode Island. She's already checked that. She has all of her certifications for speech language, and she gets a companion health certification with that. Let me go on why this is so important. Nicole Dreary is also certified as a BCBA. That is a board-certified behavior analyst. We intend to, and she has agreed to, serve the remainder of that full-time capacity in the work week as a 0.2 full-time equivalent BCBA for the district, with an additional 14 days in the summer for support, both students and for some of the training that we're looking to do. That service of BCBA does not require Board of Ed. It's not in the Union of Teachers. It's not something that you need to appoint towards, but you definitely have to appoint her to the position as teacher because that takes board approval for any certified position, be it a principal, administrator, or teacher. A couple of more points. The district has definitely experienced an increase in the number of behavioral and mental health issues, as we've been hearing for the last 6 to 8 months over the last year and a half. And Mrs. Dreary's service as a BCA definitely will provide a much-needed additional service to Plainfield schools. In addition, one of our strategies is to reduce the challenges to teaching and learning due to student behaviors, and that is that we want to include training towards behavior technician status for our paraeducators. To do that, we need to have BCBA trained staff because they become then the trainers and the supervisors of that cohort. People work under their tutelage and support in terms of supporting classroom-based support, so that paraeducators will have that kind of intervention and support, that experience of knowing how to work in the classroom to intercede before the event gets larger. For example, if you see a classroom and you have a child and children can act up, one of the first things is called proximity, by sitting closest to the child because you know that skill. The child then is number one distracted from things that they may do to distract others, and it gives the para or that behavior tech the chance to start thinking about how maybe to get the person on task. So these are the kinds of skills that BCBAs develop for teachers and for paras. And then finally, due to newer certification, people now can just certify as BCBA. You can hire them. It is only those rare few people who came out of the speech-language environment that now are duly certified, both speech-language and BCA. So we're getting the skills of both disciplines, both certifications. We're putting the person where it is needed to meet the needs of the PCS PMS, and she's agreed to work the extended time so that she can join our other BCBA and deal with some things that we think are necessary. I very much needed, once she called me yesterday, to make sure you had this opportunity today so that she can tender notice and join us as of October 28th. So I'm looking for your approval to recommend Nicole Dreary to a 0.8 FTE speech-language pathologist position with Plainfield schools.
When is the Connecticut certification supposed to be completed? Her
certification, we've already checked, is all certified. She's waiting for the health, and that's just a transfer of those records. She believes she'll have it by October 28th, so by making it effective to the assurance, if it happens on October 29th, she would stop the day that she has that certification.
In terms of the health certification, I know that last spring the department of, or the legislature passed that all BCBAs have to have a separate license in Connecticut and insurance. Is she going to have those?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
which is why it's so hard to find these people.
Yep.
So the expectation is that she will be Connecticut certified by October 28th.
And that's what she's
If she
given us.
isn't, then the start date gets.
It just gets
pushed
moved
back.
by that language allows us to move it. But we then have a commitment from her, she has a commitment from us, and she tends her resignation with her current position.
All right, so at this point, I'm looking for a motion to approve the appointment pending certification of Mrs. Deary to speech language pathologist.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you much. For children who need the services, we need to be doing everything in our power to expedite and get these through. We were very fortunate. We've been working with her, Scott, 5 weeks. Yes. She's been very eager to come, but we needed to make sure we had the certification. We had to make sure that we could have the right schedule. We had to make sure we could access both PCBA and speech language. Everything works right. And I delayed the last one only because it's just very exciting to be able to introduce a person. I gave you some information ahead of time. I communicated to Plainfield High School. So we had some very, very good quality candidates applying for the assistant principal position at Plainfield High School, the position vacated by our new principal, Dr. Christopher Bickgood. He was on the search committee with the team from Plainfield High. They identified the top candidates. Then at my level, I brought in the chair, Christy Haskell. I brought in Kathleen Barry, the vice chair, and Dr. Bickgood joined us, and we interviewed all the candidates. The candidate that we have before us, and I'm happy he's here tonight, and he's here with his wife, he's a unique gentleman. He has been a math department chair, but a mathematics educator in Lebanon for a number of years, from 2007 all the way to present, with twice, in 2007, 2009, and 2014, present the actual math department chair for that high school. He's been a student activities director from 2013 to present 6 years, where he organizes the bi-monthly student activity programs and periods for the student who have it actually built into their schedule, and because they have a unique schedule that they've designed. But he's also been on the school improvement team, and that he is presently co-chair of that school improvement team for the high school in Lebanon. He's been on the district safety and security committee, and from 2017 to present, and that's at the district level. He's been the spring test coordinator last year. He's been a NEASC accreditation co-chair in 2014 when they went through that whole cycle for 2 years. All of the things we know that Plainfield High School has experienced. The issue that we have brought to you in math, that we want to raise the performance, he has an experience. The issue we have, we're trying to work with students, with safety. The issue that we have a school improvement goal, and that PHS is emerging. We have a brand new team with Dr. Bickgood and Mrs. Kelleher. The fact that he's worked at district level, testing levels, and on NEASC accreditation. And to top it off, he happens to be the 2019 Teacher of the Year for Lyman Memorial High School and for the District of Lebanon. And in that role, when he was submitted to the state, he became a Connecticut Teacher of the Year semifinalist, one of the top 19 in the state, as we had once when we had Bob Riley, remember. What an honor it is to him. And he is here tonight. His name is John Cody, and he is excited and willing, and he is actually from the northeast corner originally, coming from our neck of the woods, and he's excited to join us. I ask for your endorsement and approval of his appointment to the position of assistant principal at Plainfield High School. How good is that presentation?
We have Mr. Cootie here with us
Yes,
tonight. Would you care to say a few words to the Board of Education?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I really am looking forward to the opportunity to be another assistant principal at the Plainfield High School. I really think that all of my past work at the school level and at the district level has really prepared me well for this position. And I'm looking forward to getting started and getting to know all the teachers and the staff and the students, and really working together with the administrative team to try to create different programs and look at different components that will help move the school forward and really make Plainfield High School as the best place that it can be, and so that way all of the students in Plainfield receive the best education possible.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm looking for a motion to approve John Cody to the position of Assistant Vice Principal of Plainfield High School.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Welcome aboard.
I went through it, by the way. That was impressive.
Well, at this point in time, we're going to ask that our Plainfield Memorial students come up to present to the Board of Education. Mrs. Hutchinson, would you like to provide an introduction?
Well, good evening, and I have with us some of our fourth grade students, and they're going to present on our new STEM lab. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They are joined by their teacher, Mrs. Gould, and Mrs. Lama. And students are ready, so take it away.
My name is Amy. My name is Austin.
My name is Kristen.
My name is Gosla.
My name is Alex.
My name is Niece.
My name is Logan.
In our new STEM lab, we are learning about science, technology, engineering, and math. In our new STEM lab, we are learning about science, we learn from our mistakes and apply this learning to improve, recreate, and retest our designs. Our first activity was called Saving Breath. Kristen and Logan will pose the challenge and give you the directions.
Fred has been enjoying boating on the lake, but he frequently gets swimmer's lessons. He never learned to swim with disaster in his throat. Fred's boat had been capsized. He was able to crawl on top of the boat, but his luck would have life savers on the boat.
Fred needs your help to not only reach for the silver, but to put it on, so you won't drown. And your partner will each get two stable clips. You may touch the boat, but may only restrict clips to the end of a life for real and but at no time may you injure Fred. But by stabbing him, you drop him, he head down and you must start over.
We had to work together in order to figure out how to solve the problem. We asked our partner what worked and how we could start.
After our discussions and what we imagined, we came up with a plan. We built our entire plan down into some parts using the engineering process.
We had to create
to see if the successful the second or third time.
We shared with our class. We shared with the class how we did. We shared suggestions to those who were not successful and offered assistance in form of them asking questions or giving small hints without giving away the answers. It is important that we share our failures as well as our successes.
There are several options for early finishers, such as Legos, Cubits, and Fiddlesticks.
STEM teaches us to work together, that way we to persevere, we can motivate each other, and we can all learn from our mistakes.
So that's their engineering process and what they are required to do.
So the one last thing that's being passed out, the engineering process steps for you to see, what the children actually complete. They really have to have that plan first before they test it, and then sort of a rubric so that they can check in and be certified.
And just so that our audience can see us, it's more in Fred.
Yes. So thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. So can I ask, while you're here, what did your inventions look like to save Fred? What did you
You did
create?
save him, right? Did you
Yeah.
He's not dead. Fred's not dead.
And he guess what was in here? Nice.
Only a couple times. Oh, he's a durable one.
I like it.
Thank you.
And for the board's knowledge, you're in the library, correct?
Yes.
So the STEM Center is also integrated into the brand new library that got renovated.
Yes.
They have all new tables. I know you might have seen it before it got fully, but now they have work tables. You all work around them and stuff like that, which is great. And it's a full science, it's a science STEM lab, which is great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really excited.
Thank you.
At this point, I would just like to also note that we have our new student representative with us. I understand Jake Ayers is going to be joining us. And then we will have another student representative who could not be here tonight, but Olivia Bassett. Jake, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Jacob Irons. I'm a junior at the high school. I'm involved in various activities. I run cross country. I run indoor track and outdoor track for all three sports. I'm involved in the National Honor Society, Natural Helpers, and I'm in the tech ed department as well.
Well, welcome aboard. We're thrilled to be able to have you attend these meetings, and we hope that you'll be able to participate in your thoughts.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Did
Do
you
you
take
have
your,
a report with you this evening?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Irons, real,
And you're on.
real quick.
All right. So things that are happening at PHS, our CNA program has finally started and we've had a couple of students come in after many years of planning. We have them coming in. We have 12 students taking this course. Thank you, Ms. Akron, for the help getting it started and getting it really moving. And then the honorable breakfast last month was well attended by all the parents and students. It was very nice to have them in the building. The music department this weekend is sponsoring Cow Patty Bingo and the craft fair this Saturday starting at 9 o'clock to 12. Today actually was our first college fair of the year. It was around 90 colleges in attendance. We had colleges for everyone. We also had the military options there, and as well as technical education options there. And all juniors, seniors, and sophomores participated in this event. And SAT and PSAT testing will be conducted on the 16th. And Ms. Saylor will be sponsoring her annual cooking contest, which is open to PHS students on the 22nd. And we've had 3 students nominated for ECC Athlete of the Week just alone this school year. And the new band teacher, Mr. Flynn, has been keeping the marching band very busy already with various achievements in there. in their endeavors. And homecoming weekend starts October 25th with the football team playing at 6 o'clock versus Craig, and ending the 26th with our homecoming dance.
Mr. Irons, I have to ask, did you take your hand at the broadcast at WINY?
I did a little bit. I don't know how much I helped and how much I hurt, but I...
Well, then if you're the one I'm thinking of, you did a very good job, and I think we can all
Well,
tell
thank you very much.
All right. At this point, we will open the floor to public forum. If there's anyone that wishes to address the board, I just ask that you come forward, state your name, and then,
And raise the mic.
yep, and you probably will have to raise up the mic. Yes.
He's guessing. See, that's what she did not want to have happen. Right. Renee's one who knows this.
If you give it a speaker hand, it's going to be a song.
A little dance too.
Hello, my name is Renee Tober, and I'm a parent. I live in Central Village, and currently I have a child in middle school, studying 6th grade in the special education program. I know we usually get about 3 minutes, but I haven't made the last 2 meetings, so do I get 9? No. I'll make it quick. You've already addressed some of the things that I had wanted to talk about, so let me talk about a couple of successes. When I wanted to come to the first Board of Ed meeting after you all had resumed after the little summer break, you might think it's too early to be talking about Camp Q, but it's never too early to be talking about Camp Q. Camp Q, for those that don't know, is Camp Communicate. It's one of the only state-funded camps for individuals with special needs, and many of our public school districts use that as an extended school year program if it's an appropriate placement for the child. My daughter has been going since she was about 6, and she's currently 11, and it's been okay. It's been definitely a better placement than in the public school for her particular scenarios. But I have to say, this past year, it was so amazing for my daughter. What a difference it made to have a one-to-one that had specialized training in the area of my daughter's disability, and just her level of knowledge and training. She implemented things and carried over things that were in her IEP, her individualized education plan. She just had the ability to redirect. It was nice not to get phone calls to, manage behaviors, because there was staff trained who knew what to do. We carried that on with a lot of growth and a lot of communication. Communication is the key. Parents live for that, and I think the staff does too. It's nice to share back and forth. So I would encourage the board to keep your staff open to the idea of communicating with your families. So from there we went to Camp Communicate, which is a camp for children that are minimally speaking or nonverbal. And we pay out of pocket for that. It's up in Maine, and it's 4 days. And 2 things that are important. October is Augmented and Alternative Communication Month, which is short is AAC. My daughter's an AAC user. Many of you might remember me doing a presentation. It's a device that she uses to communicate. But you can't just give a kiddo a device and expect them to know how to talk. There's a lot of training that goes into it. So this 4-day intensive camp, there was so much training for the parents, and the kids got to be kids. They got to, talk about things and express themselves and go on boat rides, and it was just so amazing. And again, the first year we went, the level of support wasn't adequate for her. They didn't know her. This year, we had somebody that was specialized in special education. She had behavioral training also, and my daughter thrived. She grew so much this summer, so coming into school, we were like, we set y'all up for success. We have home services, and there's barriers in the public school, and some that you had addressed, and a couple that are very concerning to me. I'm glad to hear your steps. My daughter's in 6th grade, and let me just run through the speech and language pathologist that she's had since she's been here. We started with Jamie, we went to Patty, went back to Jamie. We had Sierra, we had Mariah, we have Carolyn. Jamie left, Sierra left, Mariah left, Carolyn left. For a parent of a child that has communication barriers and really needs a special skill set to help her access her education, as a parent, you start to wonder, what is going on? Because the lack of continuity, how is my daughter going to have a chance that when she leaves here, I want her to have the same access other students are having, to be independent, to have a job, to, employment, to have friends. So I like where you're going with that, and I have seen firsthand the teachers acting as the behavioral specialists, so not having the ability to be modifying the programs because they're being everything except being the teacher. So I really just, encourage you to be talking to your staff and, in the school and really hear them, and if they need more support, get it, and it sounds like you're adding some wonderful additions. The parent engagement groups, Scott has met with parents a couple of times, and I think a lot of us are on the same page about some things. One thing that is, kind of hits me right here is my daughter being able to have friends. It's in preschool, you kind of hope that they'll get in with the little social things, and then they're in elementary school, and you say, hey, can't you have a friend come to lunch? Can't you have a friend come to, well, the other students are busy learning, so, unfortunately, no. And now here we are in middle school. My daughter doesn't really get to pick out her friends and say, hey, let's go talk about clothes and cute boys and stuff like that. I did just have a team meeting, and it seems like there's some plans in place to have mentors, the natural helpers. Thank you for being a part of that. And it's my expectation that my daughter have the same experiences, good and bad, that all other students are having. So the family engagement team, I had heard Scott talk about best buddies at a meeting, and kind of made me raise my ear a little bit. I knew minimal about best buddies, but I do know a lot about the wonderful program that we had here at one point, Max and Company, and what a success. And the woman that was running that, I've had the opportunity to become friends with. Brought her in to meet with school staff on a couple of occasions in the past. And so what Max and Company is, it's basically about building friendships. That's the short version of it. So it was nice in our parent engagement meeting, not only to hear about best buddies, but Max and Company was thrown around. And I took just as much of their time as I'm taking of yours. So with that, thank you. We have a lot of things going well, but for my daughter to be able to have friendships, meaningful friendships, access to education the same way her peers do, and thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else at this point that wishes to address the Board of Ed?
My name is Jessica McElroy. I'm here representing with Charlene from the Moosup Elementary School PTO. I'm the treasurer, and she is the secretary this year, and we will be there next year also. We want to mainly bring to your attention the latest project that our students, teachers, community involvement has just recently fulfilled today, and that was our Project PIN collection. We all know what Project PIN is and what it stands for. So they reached out to us, actually. Mark Barry emailed us directly saying that his shelves were extremely low, that if there was any way we and our staff could help, please do. So us as a PTO, we kind of jumped on that board thinking absolutely that's why we're here, to create those community relationships, get the kids involved and all of that also. So we made a flyer, put it out, we had a collection, and we ended up with an astronomical turnout. We collected 1,200 items in 1 week. Yes. So today, we then picked all those items up, stored them for a week, and the winning class that collected the most donations got to deliver that today directly to Project PIN. So they had a huge spread out on the table, and they all stocked the shelves themselves, and they gladly did it. They were smiling from ear to ear just to be involved, and there were so many Project PIN volunteers there, as well as Tim Kettle, and they were so appreciative. They let the children know that they serve personally out of that branch over 100 customers or community members each month, so they were shocked by that. They look forward to future projects with them, and it was just a really good kind of, it involved the school, but it was outside of the school also, more community than just internal, which is a lot of the other things that we do. And they also wanted us to bring to your attention the extreme need that continues. And so if we could possibly fulfill this need throughout the helps of all the other schools within the district as well, and that for every $1 that gets donated, not just items, they are allowed to purchase $4 worth of food from the Connecticut Food Bank. So that goes hugely, which we didn't know any of that. So even the cash donations are more valuable to them than they are to us. You know, I can buy 1, maybe 2 canned goods with that $1, but they can quadruple that. So that was a big thing for us to kind of spread out to the community. So we have a Facebook page if you don't follow that. And that was one big thing. We just posted today all of our pictures and the kids just smiling and enjoying it, but also that information of the $1 goes to $4. So hopefully we can spread that throughout the community further and there can be more involvement with that. But we're just here representing our kids and they're very happy that they were able to do this for them. Anything else you want to share?
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out as PTO too. I know we try to get to meetings when you have them, but it is wonderful to be able to have the PTOs come and tell us about the projects that they're doing because it is great to know. So thank you for the updates and I hope you will come back.
And you just completed the playground.
Yes,
Which
we've
was
been doing
exciting.
a lot of things, but
I mean, that's amazing. That's a great work.
All right. Is there anyone else that wishes to address us during public forum? All right. Hearing no more, then we will move on to standing committees and reports. Under policies, which we, at this point, I guess we'll have Mr. Sugarman discuss along with Mrs. Arkin and Mr. Redon.
Okay. Well, we continue to meet, and I got my little sheet notes. We're trying to streamline the review process. There's a lot of policies to go through. We want to make sure we do it in a timely fashion. So last night we met, we reviewed some of the legislative updates. We are waiting to get the final report on all of them, but got a little sneak peek at what we have coming up. We're currently developing and reviewing the attendance and discipline policies, so we hope to be bringing those to the school board within the next few months. And we're also going to be talking to our chair about perhaps adding another member or two, just because this is one of our core responsibilities as a board of ed is to develop and policies. And so we want to make sure we have good representation on our subcommittee. Okay. And then I'll refer to Mr. Sugarman for our specifics of the policies we're presenting tonight.
So there's a couple that were brought forth at the last board meeting that I believe this is the second reading of those policies. I apologize if I do this slightly out of order. Let me just make sure. So the first one is policy number 5050. It's the abuse and neglect policy. There is that slight change that we made. We posted this on the website. We hadn't had any comment or feedback on that. But mostly it's just around the verbiage of who is someone that's added as a mandated reporter, clarifying that language there. And then it's also discussing that electronic filing as part and how that is rolling out to districts starting this school year. So I believe is the motion at this time to accept that policy in the second reading or put it forward to that?
If it's been posted and they feel that it's been adequately notified and they support it, they would just vote to adopt. And that's policy 5050.
Yes.
On mandated reporting or sexual assault.
It's child abuse and neglect reporting.
Right, so at this point in time, because it's been posted, so we dispensing with the second reading, so we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I'll move that we dispense with the second reading of revised policy number 5050, child abuse or neglect reporting.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
The second one is also 5050, but .1, because it's abuse and neglect reporting of disabled adults, and also adults and young children with intellectual disabilities and autism spectrum disorder. Again, it clarifies the language of who is a required reporter of this policy. This is targeted at mostly adult-age children, so you asked why for us, but we do service students in our district up until 21. That's why it's important to have this policy. This reporting actually goes to the Department of Developmental Services and not DCF. The other modification in this policy is that the reporting to DDS, the amount of time that you needed to report was not in alignment with DCF. So they've also changed that required reporting timeline to come back to DCF policy. So we put forward this at the first reading, and the motion would be if the board agrees to forego with the second reading and approve this policy.
Okay, so I'd be looking for a motion to dispense with the second reading and move to approve policy number 5050.1.
I'll move that we dispense with the second reading for purposes of adoption, policy number 5050.1.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
The last one, for the ones that were put forth already for first reading, was the policy number 6174, guidelines for independent education evaluation. There were some more substantial edits to this evaluation, so more so I want to summarize what those big edits are. Independent education evaluation falls under the federal law of IDEA. Parents have a right to request independent education evaluation at no cost and the cost of the public expense. We have an obligation of a district to evaluate, to assess students that we suspect have disabilities. This process provides that protection, so there's a couple clarifications in this policy that went forth in the previous legislation session. First, it clarifies that districts have an obligation to fully provide access to an independent education evaluator that might be coming into the district. And that person we have to allow that person in to do what they need to do to appropriately assess the child. It clarifies the language that if the district disagrees with the request, that we immediately have to take that request to due process. It also clarifies that the district has an obligation to set the cost requirements and the requirements and clarification of the requirements of the staff who is the outside person and their certification requirements to do the evaluation. So basically what that says is that it can't just be anybody that's a speech pathologist. It has to be someone that could also get a speech pathologist certificate through the Department of Ed, and that's the district. So those are the key changes to the policy. This is one thing that the state did several years ago, and there's been a working group on IEE, an advisory group that the state has been working with. So that's why for the past couple of years, every legislative session, there's been these updates to it. So I put forth for those changes and the edit and revisions that were brought forth at the last meeting, if the board so wishes to forego with the second reading and approve policy number 6174.
So before you take action, I just would want a point of clarification so that they know what they're voting on. Within the context of it, and it was very clear and available to the public, there was a bold statement done in brackets on the requirements of those people authorized to give this, and it says optional as deemed appropriate, and then it'll say New York, Mass, and Rhode Island. We are not New York, Mass, and Rhode Island. So the question is, although it's included, is that to be stricken? Because it's considered part of the policy. If they adopt it as is, it would have to be written into policy. Do you want that now excluded?
Yes, it's supposed, sorry, it should be excluded.
Okay. So where it says a baby analyst license, as we did BCBA from Connecticut, there is no optional as deemed because we are not Connecticut, not Rhode Island. So what you are approving would exclude all the items that say option. Those would not be included in the final language. We will uphold only Connecticut requirements. Good.
So we would be looking for a motion to approve, as stated, the policy number 6174.
I'll move that we dispense with the second reading for policy number 6174 for purposes of adoption, citing that options options not including Connecticut certifications are omitted.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And there's one more. Putting forth, this is an interesting thing, and the policy subcommittee is we're just being transparent about this situation. So it's the policy number 6045 around graduation requirements. The board at two different intervals in 2014 and in February 2019 agreed and voted on changes to our graduation requirements. The first change was, but however, these changes weren't accurately reflected in the policies. They didn't get officially revised. So we're being transparent about that, even though the board took action to vote on these. The first change in 2014, it was the board adopted the changes that the graduation requirements included 4 credits for English and 4 credits for math. And then in 2019, the Board of Ed adopted a change to the PHS graduation requirements to have an overall reduction to 26 credits, and then the addition of 2 credits for health PE and 1 credit for world language. Since the board already approved that, we're just putting that forth officially on the table from the policy committee, and I believe this one is a motion to put that forth out for public so they can review that, and then we'll bring that back to the next board meeting after.
But it is my understanding that these changes are reflected in the student handbook.
They are.
did
The
before.
students and parents are informed of your decision. For some reason, back in 2014, they didn't change the paperwork we have.
Correct.
Although it was authorized. So I think you took the right action, and Mr. Sugarman told me that for transparency, you need now just to put this out there on the front of the district website to say these are the current expectations so that people have a right to reflect on it and say if they have an issue. If not, the body of the information hasn't changed, only the reflection of the course requirements. That's only one section.
So I went back and checked the February minutes where the last revision was made via motion. And the motion as recorded in the minutes was Ms. Berry moved to change the amount of graduation credits from to 26 from 27 and to support the state graduation requirements to include 1 year of world language and 2 years of PE and health. So that would fall under our policy document 9311, which is the board policy development and dissemination. We do stipulate first meeting, second meeting, first reading, second readings for adoptions of these policies. Policy revisions may be presented and approved at the same meeting, which is what happened there. But for the purposes of the policy subcommittee, these additional steps are still going to be taken in the spirit of transparency and consistency with our own policies. So I believe we would be looking for a motion perhaps to bring to a first reading the graduation requirement changes. Am I correct in that assessment?
Yep, if you just authorize it to be posted for review on the website as a first reading, it'll do it. It would only need one because it's not going to be substantive. You've had multiple, but at least you have to go through that stage to see if there's any challenge.
I
All right, so at this point, we're looking for a first reading of 6045. A motion to approve the first reading and
It'd be great if somebody other than policy subcommittee made these motions.
So moved.
okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And since it's the first reading, I'm going to bring this to Sterling and have them take a look at it. Sure. Because some Sterling students.
Excellent. One point of clarification, if you recall along the way, one of the other things that you adopted both in the strategic plan and then by content was to make sure that the personal finance cost is included. It doesn't add or subtract. That language should be there too, because we don't want to then miss, why am I taking the personal finance cost? You did adopt it. It was not in that last piece where we dropped to 26 and did the state, it included your other mandate that you want to see the personal finance. It doesn't affect the graduating students or juniors, it affects the 40 so we'll put that up there also for transparency. We'll just make sure that the personal finance cost is included. Yeah, and it's on the grid, it's there.
All right. Negotiations. We'll be discussing the ratification of the secretary contract under new business, but currently we're also meeting we've just wrapped up our meetings with the PASA, which is the Plainfield administrators. And then we are moving into November. We have 3 dates on the calendar already to begin negotiations with the para-educators, and ground rules have been set. So there will be more information coming, and we are looking possibly later going into executive session to discuss negotiations. With that, under standing committees and reports, is there anyone else that wishes to add? I know we don't have Audrey here and Rena is not here for curriculum. Mike, is there anything that you wish to add with Sterling?
No.
Or from our Sterling representative as well? You are free to speak under standing committees if
I'm
there's
stuck
anything.
remembering from the last 2 meetings. So.
With that, all I will say is with some of the subcommittees with East Con, with negotiations, and with policy, we are looking for members for those committees. You know, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here because we all do volunteer quite a bit, but if you are willing to come forward and do any more for those committees, much appreciated, because we are now rapidly moving into budget season. So it's going to get even busier as time goes by. So if you can give any more time for EastCon negotiations, or if you're interested in joining policy, please let us know, let me know, and I will reshuffle those meetings.
We're a fun committee, just
Yes, the negotiations.
It might sound dry.
Really.
Sounds exciting.
Just think, you can spend hours with us, multiple times a week, month, going forward in negotiations late at night. It's great.
Someone's got to.
All right, moving on to old business. Fiscal year 20 budget and facilities report. Mr. Lucier.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to report that through the month of September, we had no excessive cost to be outlined or reported. Anything that will be discussed about the finances is going to be carried further when we talk about the ECS and state aid. We do have a few buckets that have run under, a couple that are running over, but they're not excessive. But it's going to help us mitigate an issue that will be discussed later in tonight's meeting. The area of concern that I do have, and I've been meeting with Mr. Sugarman and Mr. DePietro, is our special education outplacements. Mr. DePietro will also touch on that when he talks about the ECS state aid reductions, and Mr. Sugarman may touch on this when he talks about the special education portion of this meeting. We have children moving into the district and moving out of the district. Some needs are more costly than others. We're working around the clock on this, trying to find a way to mitigate the cost that we see as an overrun for the year. Right now, we're looking at somewhere around $185,000, but we think we'll be able to get through that and find ways to mitigate those costs. That'll be discussed in a couple later items. From a facility perspective, my team members have reported to me no significant items to report at the schools. So far, the repairs to the leaky roof have been taken care of. We have nothing happening here, which is one of the areas that, knock on wood, stays dry. At Moosup, they did connect the solar panels to the grid. That was accomplished on the weekend of 9/14, 9/15. They're not energized yet, but they're connected to the grid. We now need to have Eversource give the okay. They need to inspect, test, and give the okay. The nice thing about the solar connectivity in the district for the Board of Education is it will give us savings once it gets energized. We did not put those savings into our budget bill, so whatever we get is going to be pure savings. And that's one of the other items that gets touched on when we talk about the ECS money. I will be discussing more on our transportation component of our facilities report in one of these next items. We're monitoring the actual run times. We're comparing them to what the computer generates for the run time when they build their routes. And Mrs. Brunel and the folks at DATCO are giving their drivers sheets that they're sending to me, which gives the actual time of child pickup and child drop-off at the school. So we're finding the actual run time, not the theoretical run time. And what we found over the days that we've recorded so far is that it goes in both directions. You know, sometimes the generation is a 45-minute run, but the actual run time is 35 or 40 minutes. We found that a 35-minute run may be going 50 minutes. So it goes in both directions. And both Mrs. Brunel and myself felt that we need to get another couple weeks of data because the 2 weeks that we took just didn't seem enough to give us a valid data set. So she's given the timesheets to the drivers, and I'll be collecting those probably next week or the week after to give you 2 more weeks of data, and I'll be able to present those times. What I've given to the board is some charts that are color-coded. If you see run times that are in green, that means they got better. If you see them in orange, that means they got worse. If they're in red, they either reach the 1 hour or slightly over 1 hour, and that is something that Mrs. Brunel and the DATCO team will be monitoring to see what they can do to bring those times down. Any of the times that are non-color-coded, non-color-filled cells, we did not receive a timesheet, so it's just reflective of what the generation of the route time from the computer gave us. So we're constantly monitoring that. We're doing what we can do to get this to be most efficient and get the kids from the school or to the school in a timely manner.
And you have members from DATCO.
Oh, they are here. I invited them. I didn't see them in the audience.
On behalf of the board, in case there were questions, they were willing to come and just. I'm happy to tell you that I think you had 6 drivers, people interested in drivers at the job fair today.
Yes, we did. 8 interviews scheduled.
8, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So.
Are there any questions?
I'm just curious as to how we're taking the time from start to finish. Is it just 1 clock on the bus, or how are we gauging the logging?
Go ahead.
Good question. So each of the drivers are using their own timepiece. So the actual time in minutes would be accurate, but they may vary from their actual route time.
Start time perspective, but duration would be
correct.
consistent.
Yes. No other questions for DATCO?
I'm just looking at bus run 7. The scheduled time is 22 minutes and the actual time is 55. Why such a big difference?
our routing software doesn't take into consideration railroad crossings, delays for any reason. You know that we have lots of railroads here in Plainfield, and we have a lot of active trains. So that could be that particular route isn't, in that area. Ron, that was one other thing I was going to say. Maybe we, if we encounter, I've got a list of things that would delay a route, that the drivers should actually maybe start documenting,
Sure.
so we could, see what those issues are.
Exactly.
Those times.
I noticed many of the runs that are in yellow, like for example, bus 13, its actual run time is 46 minutes, but its scheduled time is 30. Is that just going to be addressed? Because I can tell you that I monitored that just happens to be my daughter's bus, and for a 5-year-old, and a lot of it could be Providence and Worcester, but there are days where she's not making it home. If she does take that bus on a Friday until 4:45, 5 o'clock, she's coming home, and because of the length of the runs, I don't imagine it's very hygienic for the bus either, but that is a very long time for a 5-year-old to sit on the bus.
And our goal is to have every route every tier of every route under the 1 hour, correct, Ron?
Yes.
That is our goal, and that's where we want to be. I don't think that the report that Ron ran, there wasn't that many.
And I know many times the driver does say it's Providence and Worcester, but it seems like the train runs at that time. I don't know if there's a way to even work with them to find out if there's a way to reroute, because I know they can take Black Hill and avoid that, but it involves rerouting the whole entire run.
Yeah. So there's lots. I'll just go through these if you're not opposed. These are some things that would delay a route. There are other things that could speed up a route, such as, all the students are not riding, things like that. So a route could be shorter than what it's scheduled. I do have the railroad crossings. We have railroad procedures that we have to do at every crossing. So that takes a couple of minutes. Of course, the active trains, that could take up to half an hour. We have lots of road construction here in Plainfield going on right now. Route 12 is killing us. We have buses pulling over for student management. I would like to reiterate, too, that when we took those forms, we were only, I believe, in our 3rd week of school. So we hadn't even had a full week yet. So those route times we knew would improve in and of themselves, just by simple time. So I'm glad that we're going to get more recent data this week and next week. We have buses returning to school for student management and staff support. That is ongoing. So in the afternoons, we have that problem. We have students missing the bus. We're rerouting to go pick these students up and or drop them off. Students not at the stop or ready for the bus. That is a problem with every route that we have, and that's on a daily basis. We have many additions of students in outlying areas that were not figured in to our original routes that were built. So any student that is really on the outer path of town, that's gonna add sometimes 15, 20 minutes for one student pickup. So we're trying to work on, efficiently routing those students. Parents not home to receive pre-K, elementary, and PMS students is problematic, especially on Fridays and half days. So that's going to lengthen the run. Routes 4 and 11, we have a PHS and a PCS student on those routes that if a grandparent is not there to receive them, those students will refuse to get off, so we've got to reroute. That is not of the norm, okay? PCS and PMS requests for students to be reassigned from Route 6 to Route 7. So, we have some problematic buses, and the school staff is trying to reassign these students, but it's weighing heavily on the reassigned bus. So we're trying to work on those things. We have a PMS special needs student. I know you were talking about, children, especially with special needs or other needs. And we have one case where no one is home in the PM for this one student, so we're trying to get that resolved. And varying daycare schedules, where we have students. I just routed a student today that had 3 morning pickups, 3 different morning pickups, and 3 different afternoon drop-offs. So that means we're affecting 6 buses with that one student. So, you know, these are things that we're battling. Just wanted you to be aware of them. I'm hoping, like I said, that the new data that we get will improve in and of itself, and we'll get within that green area. And we'll continue to work on this.
I wonder if there's something that our building principals can do too, and just sending home a notice reminding parents, especially as weather deteriorates,